What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. Excuse me, at Amazon, Kindle, and CreateSpace. A link will be in the description box below, as usual. This video is entitled Greener Grass Regrets. This is for the people who thought the grass was always greener on the other side until they got in that yard. I was a guy, I'm going to use it in a male reference. Women, you could, flip it to y'all thing. From what I've seen, from what I've experienced, a lot of women I've dated, known, been in relationships with, I've seen this numerous times. This is why I said, back in the day, I said on this channel, I'm a friend zone veteran. Because even being friend zoned, I've seen this numerous times. And this is going to be an adult conversation, but I'm going to try to keep it as tasteful as possible. So, you have women out here who date around. And because they're dating around, they want it all. And they can't commit to anyone or be content with anyone for two reasons, in my opinion. One, because they're greedy and they want it all in one person. And two, because they're truly attracted to and going to stick with the person who's actually on their level. So a lot of times, as a woman, you can date outside of your league. And you can get dates outside of your league because you're getting approached. And you can be around people who are outside of your league because you're getting approached. But that doesn't mean, but it's going to be something that doesn't quite fit with the guys that are outside of your league. So, but for the most part, I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to get into is the idea that there are things that happen. Like, you have your ideas and ideologies about guys. This is what I'm attracted to. And a lot of times, guys, really, we don't take y'all serious on that because what y'all say and what y'all do, for the most part, is two completely different things. But it's because, in my opinion, the grass is greener regret. See, you'll leave a guy who's treating you good for a guy who's exciting. And then regret that the guy who's exciting doesn't treat you well. So now you want to find a guy who treats you well and is exciting. You'll leave a guy who has money but isn't flashy for a guy who's flashy because you thought he had more money, and you figure out that, oh, this guy had more money, but this guy just wore his money. But we have, this guy is low key, and this guy makes me look expensive in public. So the attention, but that's the regret, because on one end you living good and on another end you looking good, on one end you was treated like a queen, on the other end you was treated like Bonnie and Clyde, and you wanted that. So now you've got that. Now you've gotten that fix. So whatever, I've seen the situations where you wanted a guy who, how can I say this? You wanted a guy who was hung. Well, I'll take it. You wanted a guy who was hung. You got that, he too hung. I want a guy smaller than that. You want a guy who gives you great sex. You leave the guy who gives you great sex for a guy who you feel is hung more, and because he has more to work with, it's got to be the sex is better. Not understanding that these two dudes operate sexually two different ways. So now you want a hung guy who a guy who was more hung than the guy who gave you the best sex of your life. And now you have an issue because the grass wasn't greener. You know, you got more stretch, but you got less orgasm, or vice versa. You know, you got more, orgasms and less stretch. Depends on how you look at it. The grass is not always greener. So, you go from guy to guy to guy to guy. You want to be with a protector and a provider, but you'll leave the CEO corporate guy because he's a little too soft for the street hustler guy who's, I guess too hard. But you don't. But the CEO guy, you live in comfort, and the too hard guy, you live in drama and struggle, and then gets too much. So the grass is greener. Grass ain't greener regrets. So what happens? Now you're looking for, I want a guy who's half this and half that and half this and half that and half this and half that. And then you come across these women, and the older they get, the more they add to their list because they've kept jumping the fence. They kept saying the grass is green over here. I'm gonna go over here. It's not as green as I thought. I wish I still had this, but I got this. If I could put these two things together, and those two things, like I stated, with all the other things combined, those two things turn into 20. You know what I'm saying? So, and you have, now he has to be these 20 different things because you've dated 20 different types of guys that you liked. Because you put, the 20 different types of guys that you like the most into one guy in your mind. And not even questioning if you meet a man who's the 10, I don't even get 10 to 20 things that you want or you see as the best qualities in men that you're attracted to and you're willing to be with and be down for, that does not mean that you are you fit his woman ideology amalgamation or whatever. And he might not even have one. But if he's all of these things and you show up and you say, oh yeah, that's the one for me, that doesn't mean you might not be in his league. And 9 times out of 10, you're not. Okay? Because once you meet this guy and you felt like the grass is super green now, and you can finally rest because you found your Mr. Everything. Some of you ladies realize you ain't Mrs. Everything. And then the insecurity creeps in. And then I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. What does he see in me? How do I compare to his exes? I'm not on the level of his exes, and now I don't know, is he dating down? Blah, 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 blah. Because grass ain't greener regrets. So, a whole nother issue. Now, to me, the either the less attractive a woman gets, and then the older a woman gets, she starts settling her fantasy ideas into reality, and it starts seeing, pretty much where she fits. And I think this is what hurts the most when I look in women's eyes, when I talk, is when they realize the guy that they probably are best suited for is one of the guys that they were already with, that they said weren't good enough at that time. Because in creating this this hypothetical mold of a man, she left the man best suited for her, because the regret comes in when they start using their brain and start saying, okay, let me streamline what I really need. And then when they streamline what they really need, say if they had 20 different guys, 5 of them fit that mold. They had 10 guys, 3 of those guys fit that mold. And now they can't say that, yo, I never had a guy, and now it comes, now they're looking for that type of guy again. And what winds up happening, either those guys are taken by the time they come to that realization, or those type of guys have been down that road so much with experience that they're not dealing with women like that. So now she's left with the 7 to 15 guys who are under her top 3 or 5. And even though women say, I'm not settling, that's pretty much what happens, because you kept hopping the fence because the grass was always greener. Now you have to settle for the second. You have to settle for what is ultimately all your second, third, fourth options, because what you come to find out was your first options that you just wasn't feeling out of, lack of experience, bad decision making, immaturity, whatever it was. Don't want to rock with you. So thus the regrets, because now you basically are on your own level, and some people can't accept that the people that you with in the end are you, or a reflection of you, and they may have some stuff with them just like you got some stuff with you, and guess what? That's what it is. We out.